Hello everyone, this is Phil, Linux Mint Forum member PhD 21. One of the questions that came up over the past couple days was how to, from one of the members in the Linux Mint forums, is how to install an application packaged as in an archive file, a .zip file. And archive files can actually contain anything. I mean, all they are is compressed files. So that it depends on what the software developers provided in the archive file. Some are self-contained archive files, meaning everything it's all ready to run. It's just in an archive file. You just have to extract the contents and run it. And this happens to be one of those. In other cases, that is not the case. You may have to compile the software. There could be other instructions, and so we were going back and forth over the past couple days because for some reason written instructions weren't working very well for some reason, and so I decided I'll create a tutorial on how to install this particular software. There are three main versions of Linux Mint: Cinnamon, Mate, and XFCE. There's also a KDE version that's still good till 2021. And you can always install the KDE desktop alongside, or like XFCE or Mate versions as well. I normally use the KDE version. But most people use Cinnamon, Mate, or XFCE, and so I booted into Linux Mint 19, which is based on Ubuntu 18.04 Bionic, to try out these instructions to see if there was anything different. The only thing I found different is this is a Java application, which means you have to install the Java runtime. And it seemed to be specifically looking for Oracle Java. There are two versions of Java. There's what they call the open source Java, OpenJDK, and there's Oracle's Java. And there's various versions of that. 8, 9, 10, 11. There's older versions, 6, 7, and it's Linux Mint already comes with the open source Java 11 installed. Unfortunately, most Java applications that I've tried won't work with it. It doesn't seem to be backwards compatible. So I always tell people to install the open source Java 8 runtime and make that the default. I always install both Oracle and the open source because on some occasions, and this could be one of them, a certain application was designed specifically for a specific version of Oracle, a specific version of Java, like Oracle Java versus open source Java. Anyway, the software that this person is trying to install is called FlashPAP. And there's another one called, I think it's called Sleepyhead. There's software that communicates with sleep apnea machines. And I don't have any of these machines, but I do know how to install software. So I'm going to walk through doing that. It's actually pretty easy. The first thing, though, is because I've already looked and I know that it has to. It's a Java. The FlashPAP is a Java-based program, and it needs Java. So on the Linux Mint forum post are instructions on how to install the Java 8 runtime, and I just added the instructions for how to install the Oracle runtime. And there's various ways to do that. The open source Java 8 is already in the Linux Mint software repositories, so you can just go to the software manager or the Synaptic Package Manager and install OpenJDK -8-JRE. I have a command on the Linux Mint forum post reply that I made, which installs that plus a couple other useful programs. And you need to make you need to set a default Java runtime, which can be either the Oracle Java 8 or the open source Java 8. And there's a command for running that: sudo space update dash alternatives space dash dash config space Java. Now, if you bring up a console terminal prompt, you can copy and paste the instructions from the Linux Mint forum post, and I'm going to do that right now. You click select all above a code box. It just highlights the command. Right click the command, select copy, click in the terminal window, and paste. Right click paste. Just hit enter. Put in your password. I already have these installed, so it tells me that. If it says, hit yes to install it, say yes. Okay. Now, when I tried to run this in my KDE system, it worked fine. When I tried to run this in my Cinnamon system, it did not. It wanted Oracle Java, and so I included instructions for installing Oracle's Java. Now I use what they call a PPA to install that. There are other methods to install it. This is one of the easiest methods. And you add a repository, then you update your software, and then you install the Oracle Java 8 installer, and then you tell your system which one. Now I'm going to walk through it real quick. Again, you click select all above the code box, which highlights the command. Right click it, hit copy, click in your terminal window and hit paste. Hit enter. When you're adding a PPA software repository, it usually tells you to hit enter at the bottom. Just hit enter. Then you have to tell your system to recognize the new software repository, so you have to update your system. So you copy that command, sudo space apt-get update, let it run through. And then the last command for installing Oracle Java 8 is sudo apt-get install Oracle Java 8 installer. Just click select all, above that command, it highlights it, select copy, click on the terminal window, right click and paste, hit enter. If it asks yes or no, say yes. Okay. It's already installed on my system, but now you have to make sure to set a particular version of Java as your default. Normally, you could use open source Java 8, unless you run into a situation where you've got a particular type of software that wants a specific version, like Oracle Java 8, and it's perfectly fine to set Oracle's Java for the default version of Java. So if you type in the command, if you copy and paste or type in the command for setting the default version of Java for your system, it'll come up and list all the versions you have installed. And in my system, I have Java 11, and I have open source Java 11. I also have open source Java 8, and I also have Oracle's Java 8. So, and that's number 3. So I hit 3, enter. So now I've made it the default. Okay. Now we've installed the prerequisites for running this particular Java application. The Linux Mint forum member provided a link to the software. So if you right-click that and open it in a new tab, it'll pop up that website. Okay. And if you read it, you can scroll down, and it tells you, this app is written in Java. So it should, require. It says it requires Java 7 as a minimum, and it runs on Windows, Mac, or Linux. Okay. Well, we've already done that. Down below that there's a red button that says download free. Just click that. And then, of course, your browser will come up usually and say, okay, where do you want to download it? I always download my stuff to a downloads folder. And I recommend everybody do that. But anyway, I click download now. It only takes a few seconds to download it. Okay. Then you bring up your file manager. In Cinnamon, it's called Files, and it's represented in your system tray. Actually, they call it the quick launch section of your system tray, which is on the left side. And it's called Files, or Nemo. And if you click that, it'll pop up with your file manager. Now, if you click on your downloads folder, okay. Now, I've already done this once. Well, I'm going to delete what I've already done. I'm going to delete that because I want to. I have a lot of, obviously, software that I've downloaded. So, to make it easier to locate something I just downloaded, I click the heading, date modified, and it sorts them by date. Okay, and there's the FlashPAP zip file. All you got to do is right-click that and select Extract Here. Normally that only takes a few seconds, unless it's a really large software package. That will create a new folder, usually of the same name as the archive file, in this case FlashPAP. If you double-click that, it shows the contents of what was in the original zip archive. Now, Java programs can be started by what they call JAR, which is also an archive, a Java archive file. Or it might even have a script file or something. I know that this program uses this flashpap.jar as its startup executable program file. And in Linux, because Linux is more secure, you have to check to make sure you've got permission to run the file. All you have to do is right-click that file, select Properties, select the Permissions tab, and make sure that it allows you can execute the program, that you can run it. Owner is the user you. I always select owner and group, but you only have to select the owner, and you just check that box and click close. At this point, I could double click this FlashPAP jar file and it should come right up. However, if this is software you're going to keep and you're going to run more than once, I would recommend moving it from the downloads folder into a folder in your home folder, like an applications folder or an apps folder. Now I already had one in there, so I'm deleting that because I'm doing this over, so I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to copy the FlashPAP folder from my downloads folder, which I could right click and copy and then click on this and paste, or I could right click, copy to, and my browser just closed for some reason. Click on the downloads, go to the FlashPAP, I'm going to right click that. I'm just going to do the, I could select copy to and then browse and go to my applications folder and select that. Now if I go to, I opened another tab for my home folder. I'm going to, and in my applications folder I now have a FlashPAP folder. It should be the exact same content. Why is that closing? Okay. Now, I've already given it permission to run. I can check it again if I want. Properties, permissions tab. It allows me to execute. At this point, I should be able to double click it, or right click it and open with. And I could pick. It already knows it's a Java program, so I could open it with open source Java, or I could open it with Oracle Java. If I just double click it, it wants to use open source Java, which I found out in Cinnamon anyway, it's not going to work. So if I right click it, oh, actually it did. Okay. This time, as you can see now, let's try that again. I'm going to close it. Okay. If I double click the file, okay, it pops up with the FlashPAP program, and the very first thing it says is that no profiles were found. Do you want to create a new one now? Well, I'm going to minimize the file manager, and of course you want to say yes to that. Okay. It's asking for a profile, a name. Well, put in your name, or I'm just going to put in test. Click OK. Now apparently there's different kinds of these machines, and you pick the machine that you have. But as you can see, the program is working. Now, assuming that you can scan for the machine. Since I don't have the machine, I can't run it. But as you can see, the software is working. Alright, now I'm going to close that. Let's say you wanted to create a desktop shortcut for this program. Now sometimes when you run a program, it'll come up and say, would you like us to install into your system, integrate into your system, and you would say yes. Sometimes they don't, but Linux Mint makes it easy. Just right click your desktop and select create a new launcher here, which means create a new desktop shortcut icon. You click that, type in the name of the program. FlashPAP is the name of this program. Click browse, go to where the folder is. In this case it's under applications, under FlashPAP, and pick the startup, the program that that starts the program. In this case it's flashpap.jar, flashpap.jar. Okay, you can resize the window. Now I know that with Java applications, you should put in Java space -jar in front of that. Now, if you want to change the icon, you can do that too. I would use the ping file. Okay, and then just click OK. Now, in Cinnamon, they have a cool feature. If you create a desktop icon, a new desktop launcher icon, it'll come up and automatically ask you, would you like to add this launcher to your menu? Well, of course you would say yes to that. And then it'll show up in your menus and your desktop. I'm going to say no because I don't have the machine. But now I've got a new icon here called FlashPAP. And I should be able to double click that. And the program should come up. And it does. And it's got my profile in there. So that's how easy it was to install this program, this particular Java based application called FlashPAP. Now there is another application for this called Sleepyhead. I don't know if they work together or I think they're separate applications, but the Linux Mint forum member made it seem like they might work together. They look like separate applications to me. But anyway, you can have both of them on there. This project, they make it very clear, has been shut down, but it's apparently still working. Their newest version, or their last version, is right here. Okay, so you click this link here where it says 1.10 test builds can be found here. Click that link and it pops up with some folders. Well, obviously you click the Linux folder and it's 64-bit only, and there's a file there, a link to a file. Just click that file and your system should come up and say, oh, where do you want to save this? Well, save it into your applications folder, you know, or save it to your downloads folder and then move it to your applications folder. I'm going to just automatically save it into my applications folder. You could even save it, because they're related to the same function, you could save it into the FlashPAP folder, but I'm just going to save it into the applications folder. Okay. I'm going to bring up my file manager again. I'm already in the applications folder and a subfolder of that FlashPAP, so I'm just going to go up one. And there's the Sleepyhead program. Now this program is a compiled program. It's just an executable program, but you still have to make sure that you have permission to run it. So you right click it, hit properties, click permissions, click executable, close the property window, and then you can just double click it. And it comes up with different languages options, you know, and I'm choosing English, US English. Would you like Sleepyhead to use this location for storing your data? I'll say yes. And up pops the Sleepyhead program. So, it was pretty simple to install both these programs. And again, you could create a shortcut to that in the same manner, you know, a desktop launcher shortcut. Right click, create new launcher here, call it the name of the software, Sleepyhead. Of course you could call it whatever you want, really. Click the browse button, go to your applications folder, pick that program, in this case Sleepyhead, click OK. If you want to see the whole path, you might want to stretch the box a little bit and just click OK. Again, it asks if you want to add this to your menu. If you do, say yes, and if not, say no. Now, on my desktop, I should have a Sleepyhead software. So there it is, right there, Sleepyhead. If I double click that, it'll come up and, you know, say the same thing. And there it is. Okay, so that was how to install FlashPAP and SleepyHead into, a Linux Mint system, along with open source Java and Oracle Java. I hope that was useful for some, and I hope everybody has a great day and night.